Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, the co-founder of Wake Up with Giants TV, the 12 Journeys, Tribe of Giants, and I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the other co-founder and the author of The Giants and the
What,
Smalls
what was that, dude? You zoomed in on me.
and the Tortoise's Hair. I don't know what I just did here, but that was
Yeah,
awesome. See
I
see how
like
I
it.
did that? I'm also a new cameraman too.
We're gonna highlight Ryan Morris. Oh, it doesn't do it.
See
It
you
just
later.
goes to me.
Whoa, that was really good. Before the show, me and Nick joke every now and again. We're like joking about how people will turn on their computers like 3 minutes before the show starts, and then all of a sudden they'll
And it
get their
updates,
automatic
right?
updates. Yeah. Well, it wasn't 3 minutes, but it was about 15 minutes, and I hop on. And good thing I did it at 15 minutes because we got on with about a minute and a half to spare, so that was close. It was way
It was
close.
good though.
It was good. If you want to know what we're doing, www.giantsandsmalls.com. Sign up for our newsletter because that goes out, tells you everything that we have going on. We've got our SG groups. We've got a waiting list for that. You can find us on a Tribe of Giants on Facebook, YouTube. We've got how many pieces of content? 600 pieces of
600, yeah.
content. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's growing there as well. And what else do we have, Nick? Now I'm all like flustered because
I know.
and
Yeah.
I've been sick. So like I didn't have a voice, and it might go during the show. But I got water.
It's
So
got to be true because it rhymes.
yeah,
Right?
it is. Look, and I've got a green mug.
And it's see-through. I'm sitting here on my third cup of coffee, so I'm buzzing like crazy. So, and I think Richard's on his sixth cup of tea over on the other side of the pond. We do have the Tortoise's Hair coming up, Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign. And so if you haven't joined the wait list for that, you can see that on the bottom of the screen there. So go to tortoiseshair.com, join the wait list. And man, I think that's it for the moment. We'll probably remember things as we get going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Will you introduce our amazing guest?
I'd love to. Yeah, Richard Gordon Kelly, or RGK, not RG Kelly. Is that not R. Kelly?
Not R. Kelly,
dude. Yeah,
I'm throwing the G in there.
Yeah. Put the G in. You better put the G in, guys. You know,
we got the G in there. Yeah, you'll get something you don't want to see. He's a chief energy officer, trusted advisor, and Mr. Connector. He's also an expression of lovingness that heals, a principle of power in action, and a courageous speaker of truths. With a deep understanding of the power of personal storytelling and the benefits of sharing stories, Richard loves having loving and open conversations and helping people move forward by truly listening to them. So in a world where individualism can create division and hinder connection, he believes that being heard, seen, and acknowledged is crucial, and he strives to bless those he encounters with his daily presence, and he's doing that for us today. So Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Ryan. Great to see you, man.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to catch up before the show, so thanks for letting me come in like a wrecking ball. Great.
A little Miley going on, man.
Yeah.
Or is it Betty White? Have you seen that?
I feel more like Betty White at the moment than
Yeah,
Miley
she's got a
Cyrus.
video too. Come in like a wrecking ball. Well, this will be fun. We'll have fun with the storytelling. This is where we actually start in our 12 journeys. We go into the unconscious stories that we tell. And maybe there's a point in your life, Richard, that you can tell us where you were unconscious. You had a certain narrative that was going. You thought you were a certain way, and maybe you knew about it. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you knew and you got stuck in judgments about it, or maybe it was just completely unconscious. Is there a point in your life that you can remember that was like that?
Yeah, I think there was many periods of my life where I've had that experience. Yeah, and I believe we all go through these experiences, and this is the storytelling that we share about that as well, because that brings up the stories about what has happened to us.
Yeah.
Me, for my experiences as being, I bought a book in 1997 called Slowing Down to the Speed of Life by Richard Carlson and Dr. Joe Bailey. 20 years later, I found that book still in my old room at my mother's place.
Huh.
And yet I found that book was absolutely fantastic because it was actually what I was doing 20 years later.
Wow.
Without seeing it physically there, You know, it's not, you know, you can't touch, you can't, it was literally something that progressed through me and through to the people that I've been working with. So that's something that's kind of really gone wow. That, you know, that's a big wow moment for me.
Can we kind of dive into how these stories are created? And I'll lay a foundation and let you take off with it if that works. But our understanding is that when we're born, you know, we come into the world, there's maybe some genetic predispositions that are in place, but most of our learning happens after childbirth and goes up until the age of 25. And so we have culture, we have family, we have our experiences. If somebody's experienced neglect or trauma, that impacts that story. And we start to create this narrative and adapt to our environment. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we, as we all kind of do, we always put these lovely masks on our faces and kind of create something for different scenarios. You know, you can be a famous guy, a lad or girl, you know, playing a great sport, but actually behind that mask, you play a great sport, but actually you're kind of depressed, fed up, no socializing, no friends. But you
Yeah.
kind of put an image out there that you're okay, you know, and then that's the problem for many people. They don't seem to want to let people know more than they should. They think that they don't need to know more, or, you know, they don't want to need more about my problems. You know, it's kind of, I'm depressed or I feel lonely, I have no friends, but I'll, you know, I'll keep going on. I'll keep showing my face, keep smiling and seeing who I really am, but it's not.
Do you think that's a factor of society? Like there's a taboo around that, around sharing?
Yeah, I think so, because
Okay.
people feel like they're being judged
Yeah. Yeah.
big time. Look
Well,
at us here. We could say we're being judged with what's gone on, but that's just as it is, you know? We
yeah.
just move on. We don't worry about it.
Tell me about your accent. Where's your accent from?
I originate from Manchester,
Manchester. Okay.
Manchester in the UK, not Manchester in America, Manchester in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Let's get the difference, guys, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can hear the difference, obviously, right? Like the story, you know, even who you are, going all the way back to childhood and developing even an accent. You know, we look at things like that. I was born in Oklahoma. I should have a really big, heavy drawl, right? And now it's just a minor drawl. It's not too terrible. But that environment really affects who we think we are. And then we go through our lives, and then when we do wake up to it, there's all this judgment that comes up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we either judge ourselves or somebody else judges us. And so we take that in. You know, somebody could judge us and we wouldn't take it in, and it would just deflect off us. But if it matters to us, and part of that story is I need other people's approval for me to feel good, then those judgments can really land, right?
Yeah, and then you're more than, you're kind of people pleasing people all the time.
Okay.
You're trying to please them because you want to fit in. You want to be with the group, with the gang, with your colleagues, your friends, you know, it kind of affects everything that you're getting involved in. You know, you just want to please, and that's not the right way to be.
Yeah, even that could be, you know, the judgment of pleasing. What if somebody doesn't even know anything different? Like they've just grown up and they were taught or they learned, let's say they learned that that's how you get through life. So they have this version of themselves where they do that and they don't know any different. And then they share that and somebody's like, "Well, that's not the way that you do it," right?
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they could really just shut down and you know, I think is we talked about this through some of our shows. Lisa Feldman Barrett and her research on anxiety and depression talks about living up to ideals, that anxiety is about not living up to the ideals we think others have for us, and depression is not living up to our own ideals. But it's all still in here, like we're the ones measuring against what we think should be or who we should be in relation to others. And what would you say to somebody that's maybe stuck in their judgments? How can they move out of that old story into a new one? What are some ways that you use to kind of transition?
I think the first one that kind of hit me was just observing what was going on inside in my
Mm,
world, observing it. Why am I playing like this? Why do I act like this? What's going on to me? Why am I wanting to please people all the time? And it did happen to me when I was young. I saw that when I was young. When you just said that, I was like, yeah, between 5 to about 10, I was
yeah.
always pleasing people. You know,
Yeah.
it was interesting when you just said that, just popped up. So observing is one, stopping myself, kind of going, hey, you know, what's going on here? And recognizing where it's coming from, which is the thoughts. For me, it's where we're thinking about things all the time.
Yeah. Well, having a conversation, we're having a conversation right here. Like imagine that all three of us are different versions of our inner self. And we're having a dialogue right here and we're just talking about it. And that observation and curiosity allows you to start having conversation with these parts of you that are maybe getting in the way of your more powerful story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you do that? Do you sit and have conversation or dialogue with parts of you that you are you gentle with them, or do you shut them down and say, stop that, right?
Well,
Stop it.
yeah, I could go a bit worse. I could be shouting at myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What
Yeah.
that? You know, what you doing to yourself here, guy? You know.
Yeah.
I think we've all done that. I think we've all had that moments where we've kind of had a go at ourselves. We've been like the Forrest Gump, talking to ourselves and ranting and raving. What's going on here?
Yeah.
But I think it's normal because we're recognizing something about ourselves, and it's okay to kind of say, hey, you know what's going on here? What is this experience telling me? What am I seeing or not seeing before? You know,
We
and I've
call it
had that.
going into the judge self, right? Like,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah,
judging. It's a part of awareness. It's a
yeah.
judgment's a part of awareness. Then we shift into, if you can slow down and step back, you can shift over to being the observer, where you can
Yeah.
be gentle and graceful and understanding and those types of things as you're moving through it. Yeah.
More compassionate, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, compassionate to oneself, definitely. Because you know, it's as you were saying, Nicholas. You know, it's a reverse. It's like a mirror. You know, if you notice that you're doing that, what's it like for that other person? What they're seeing.
Mm.
You know, if they see actually you calming down and you're slowing down and you're being okay with yourself and you're being curious, as you said, Ryan, and everything starts to fit into place, and you wonder why that 2 minutes ago you were ranting and raving, but now you just gone click. What's going on? Well, I've just noticed something, observed. I got curious about what had been playing with me at that time, and I've managed to slow myself down. It's within that change of thought. You kind of go, wow, you know, I feel okay now. I'm not allowing that conversation to carry on. I'm just going, hey, this is great. I feel, yeah, I feel good. I feel comfortable now.
You are a deep listener. So when you sit with somebody, let's say it's a client, and you sit and listen with them, they're being heard. And when they are heard, I think Carl Rogers talks about this in his work, being human. I think that's his book, on being human. He talked about that ability to just listen and have people hear themselves often is enough for them to start healing themselves. And a lot of times what I see with our inner voice is we get really dismissive of that voice. You shouldn't do that, or you can't do that, or stop that, or, there's no room for any messiness within us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I were sitting to a client and I treated them that way, and I was dismissive about what they were sharing and interruptive about what they were sharing and telling them that they don't matter, they wouldn't work with me very long. Right.
No, not
And
at all.
so when you're telling that inner story and you do that to yourself, there are parts of you that are going to go into hiding in the
Yeah.
presence of your own self. Right.
Yeah. 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 Very much. Very much. And you know, I had a conversation actually with a person yesterday. It was interesting. And she was sharing about, this situation. And I said, well, really, what you're talking about is talking about yourself. And she went, very quiet and very still.
Hmm.
And then she just clicked and she said, yeah, that's really what I'm actually wanting to share about, is how much suffering I'm having at this moment in time in my life.
Yeah.
And it was so impactful for her. She just said, look, I need to just pause for a few seconds because it's really bringing up something emotional for me. And we just sat there in silence for about 10 minutes while she just allowed that process to go through her. She realized that she was playing that game within herself.
Yeah. Wow. I I think people think that business owners have it all figured out, or successful people have it all figured out, so they don't have to go through this process. We just spoke at doTERRA, just as an example here, is we have all of these really successful leaders of leaders. They're the people that support the leaders in their success, and they're good at what they do. Yet when you really get into the human element of it, they're just like you and me. They've got stories and narratives going on, and they've got thoughts and judgments about themselves going on. Even though they're really skilled at something, it doesn't get rid of what's going on in here,
No.
who they are, right?
Totally agree. And they are human beings, guys. Huh?
Yeah.
We're all human beings. And we
So,
shouldn't put them on a pedestal because they're the great leaders of the county or the business world. They're human beings. They have emotions, they have feelings, they have their fears, they have their worries, they have their own experiences to go through. And yet, if you treat that person with just as being a look opposite us now, with you guys here in front of me here, I seen you guys as loving guys. You know, it's absolutely fantastic to be here. The way you're doing your work, the way you acknowledge people, the way you support people, the way you're creating this giants and smalls, it's absolutely fantastic. The great people you've had on this show, I've been amazed. Really, I've been amazed. And it's through you guys, who you being, that's allowed that to happen with the people coming onto the show.
I saw a video this morning, Napoleon Hill, to write his books and his treatise on life and how to be successful. He interviewed 500 people for that. That's it. 500 people. We have going on 600 uploads to our website or our YouTube channel. We've interviewed personally about 160, Ryan, somewhere in there. And so every time we sit with somebody like you, Richard, or any of the other guests, we're sitting here going, holy cow, another breakthrough, another breakthrough. It's just like coaching. Every week we get breakthroughs from different views on how to, it's not a version of being successful. It's their version of being successful. Just another way of doing it, if that makes sense.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I mean,
Yeah.
you can have miracles or you can have these every time you're meeting someone
Yeah.
across the road, etc. You can have that conversation with them. If you're wanting to really be who you're going to be,
Yeah.
reach out to that person, have that conversation. I remember my uncle at the time, he lived in New Zealand, and then I was traveling through, and we were driving past this lady who pushed a trolley up this hill in New Zealand, in Auckland. And I was wondering why she does it, etc. I saw him a few years later. He says, I stopped, had a conversation with this lady. I bought her a coffee. He said, I got curious to see who she was. I had this conversation because I really wanted to understand why she keeps pushing this trolley up this hill. She explained she was one of the wealthiest ladies in Auckland at the time. And she just gave the money away back to the family. She didn't want that situation. She wanted just to be her in her own way, in her own life. And if that meant pushing a trolley up a hill. Yeah.
Wasn't it John Absey, Ryan, that said something about a gentleman that recently did that? Super successful guy, and kind of set it all aside to be homeless, and known, documented, not just some story is documented. Some people choose that. You look at Buddhist monks and others that trade their lives for service or meditation or learning, right? There's no right or wrong way to do it. I think Hugh hit on that earlier. There's their way or other people's way, but we truly get to find our way. And it really does come down to that listening, right?
Yeah.
How do you know your way if you won't listen to yourself? How will you know your way of giving back to the world if what's going on in here gets dismissed?
Yeah, you've got to clear up your BS, huh? You've got to clear up all that mess up that's inside you.
Yeah.
And it's continuous. It's never, it's always going. It's a way that you've got to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 50 odd years I've been working on myself, and I'm still going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I hope you don't quit. Right.
I want to
Yeah.
quote now. Just at this
Yeah,
moment, I'm
don't
just
make us come over there.
Right. There's no arrival though, right? It's
no.
Steve Hardison, who's on right now. He talks about mountains without tops, and it's not like you get somewhere and you're done and that's it. That was your journey. You're going to have multiple myriad really journeys through your life, right?
Totally, totally. And this is a great experience now, and then there'll be other experiences coming later on.
Right.
It's about us clearing that up and working with it. If there's anything there that needs to be cleared up, and if it is, which normally there is, it's great because
Mm,
it's allowing you to be more honest, truthful, authentic with yourself
yeah.
and with others.
That that perspective of it's great, right? All this stuff normal people would be like, or just the average person would be like, this is terrible. All
Yeah.
these things are happening to me, and I feel like I'm drowning, and I'm the worst, and I'm this, and I'm that. You're like, nope, this is great. This is great. It's
But
great.
don't get
It's
me
coming
wrong,
up.
Ryan. Don't get me wrong. I've had them moments when I've just put my head in my hand and I've just gone, oh, what's going on?
Sure.
You know, I bang my head, boom, boom. What's going on with me? But then that just kind of realizing, observing, slowing down, being aware, getting curious again. What triggered it all? What was
Mm.
bringing it up? And then it passes. You kind
Yeah,
of go, wow, I've
I
had
had
that
that
experience.
opportunity this last week. There was a situation where I got mad. I got mad at a colleague, and my normal disposition isn't anger. As a younger gentleman, I was more quick to anger as a kid, and so sometimes it comes up, and I carried some of that through adulthood. It became less and less and less, but it came up this last week, and had the opportunity to hear that, hey, this is how you were being in that situation. Was able to stop, see how I was being in that situation,
Hmm.
and had an opportunity to reflect and really go deep inside and say, okay, wow, it's interesting that this comes up for me. And now I get the opportunity to work on it, and to when those situations come up, to step back, do it a different way, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
It's a blessing, huh?
Mm,
We
very
could we
much.
could take it for granted and just carry on and be angry all the time, but like you've just done there, you've kind of reflected on it. You got curious about what it was bringing up for you, and that's great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful acknowledgement to you for being who you are in wanting to clear that up.
And if and I have the choice, right? Like I could keep doing the same thing, which it impacted some relationships. But then I was able to talk to those people and apologize and clean that up. But if I kept doing that over and over and over, which has been a pattern in the past, if I keep doing it, I'll burn bridges, I'll ruin relationships.
Yeah,
And so being able to recognize that I'm doing my work too, right? Just because we're on here telling people about what like sharing this information doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to me or you or Nick. But
It could be as well. It's something that people would justify. Oh, I have this bad behavior, and here's why. I'm okay to do that because of this, or they did this to me, so I'm going to do that back to them. So we create this justification for what is. And what I got to see in Ryan this week in doing this was, oh yeah, you know what? There was a genuine observation, and the word humility, if we're to use that, means willing to learn,
yeah,
coachable, right? So if we use it in that context of coachable, Ryan became very coachable. And so he didn't have to own some story that says, well, yeah, I'm that way because of this, right? Because you can really damage some people just holding on to that story. It's a story. And so he was willing to set his story down, take a look at it, and upgrade it and practice it a new way, which was really powerful to watch. It was
beautiful.
powerful,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, this is what you guys are doing. you're being truthful and you're being honest to people on this show, and you're saying, as you're saying, Ryan, but I'm human, so I'm gonna have my ups and downs as well, like
Oh
Richard
yeah.
and Nicholas, and it's okay.
Hopefully not as bad as
Yeah.
Nicholas. Yeah. Not to that level anyway. But we are, right, Richard?
Yeah.
We're humans.
Yeah.
And that's not a justification of, well, I can get away with doing some really shitty stuff because I'm a human. It's not that. It's a recognition that we are going to do some shitty stuff. And so to clean it up. And you did something a little earlier too, is you mentioned the word acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge you. And really, if we use acknowledgement as a tool, we say acceptance in the journeys, but it's acknowledgement. It's acknowledging what is, what has been, who we are, who we've been, and also acknowledging the good that's in our lives, the gratitude. And so acknowledgement is a very powerful tool to release the energy from things. It doesn't mean that you love it. It doesn't mean that it's ideal. It just simply is an acknowledgement that it is what it is, that you are who you are within the context of that. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you'll be there forever or you're resigning to it. It just simply means that is where you are and what's happening, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we all go through this process, as you said, even from the ages when you're born up to 25, but even after that, we keep going through this process all the time.
I gave up at 25. So.
Oh, you stopped at 25.
Yeah,
well, I must be special then because I keep doing it now at 50 odd,
Yeah, right.
But it's what you're saying there is the truth, and what your truth is coming from there, Nicholas. It's very powerful indeed, because it's showing us all that we have these. We think they're faults, we think they're problems, but where do they really come from? They're coming from how we're thinking, how we're perceiving things, how we're thinking. I could have complained about Ryan not being here and because he was delayed and what's going to happen to the show. No, Nicholas said, okay, it's great. We'll just carry on. I'll just check, make sure everything's going. And if we go live, we go live.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. We just can't, you can't, I must admit, I used to worry a lot. Hell of a lot. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? It was like a constant record for many years. And I was like, why do I have to worry? What does that bring me? It brings me nothing. It just brings me suffering and pain. And I don't want it anymore. What do I want in my life? When I wake up in the morning, what is it that I want? What's going to bring me today? What am I going to have? What's going to be great?
Yeah. Man, that worry, right? Let's play with that a little bit. Anticipation versus anxiety, worry versus calm, right?
Yeah.
The concern, is a little different. Like concern would be there's a true fear. There's a danger that's going to come into my space. There might be some concern because that could really happen. But you get into worry and anxiety, and I think there were some statistics, Ryan. I don't know if you shared this with me, about 83% of your worries never happen the way that.
Yeah.
Was that you? Do you remember the numbers?
Yeah, and it ended up being like 3% really go kind of how you thought it would go. So trying to control things it's futile.
Yeah.
Both work. Yeah.
Both work. Depends which pond you're on. Yeah.
You could just pause with food. Food.
It's true. We could have worried about the show not going on.
Yeah.
We could have worried about you not having the internet, Ryan. We could have worried about you being sick and not being here. But we just carried on. And you managed to get on, you managed to get there, you got yourself your water. Why worry? But it does, we do get we get soaked in. We see that from media, we see that as a young person, a young child, we get all this information coming in, and we wonder, oh, why are they worrying? And no, they're not worrying. But it seems as though they're worrying, but they're not.
When you said
Right.
soaked in, I thought about a sponge instantly,
Yeah.
right? A dry sponge all of a sudden gets wet, gets heavy, it weighs us down. It becomes something that prevents us from moving forward.
But
Really
that's what
keeps us
worrying
stuck.
does. That's what worrying does. It stops us moving forward in the present moment because we're worrying more about what's happened in the past or actually what's happening more in the future. And we're not actually being present to what is actually happening right now.
We asked a question in the training we did this week of who loves uncertainty, and no hands went up. No hands went up, right? And that's what we do with uncertainty, is this thought that there's something dangerous out there or it's scary. And what we've learned in our trainings is that Margaret Drabble, she says that when nothing is sure, everything is possible. And when everything is possible, that means nothing is set in stone out here. So we have a chance to really play with it. So with uncertainty, when you look at the unknown from a space of worry, then you'll start to see all the negatives that could go on. In fact, in the book, The Giants and the Smalls, we threw in this little section of fear and anxiety, because that's what we do, is we just tell this story about what might happen, not what will happen. We're talking about what could happen as a possibility on the negative side. So going back to the 3%, it's the odds of it happening are really slim. But we go about acting like it's 100%.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
we play a very good acting game in that, huh? With our heads,
Yeah.
huh? It's constantly going, hey, you know, this is a big one, huh? You're going to have big problems here now, you know? This is like 100%, you've got this problem. But it's not real.
Yeah.
It's all made up. Yeah, as Ryan says, there will be that percentage where it could happen and it may happen, but it's not going to be exactly as we're making it up in our heads. That story of, you know, this is the problem. You're going to be like this, and this is going to be like this, and you're constantly creating a reel of a film of why I've got this problem.
When I'm sitting with somebody, I don't want them to kind of change that. I don't want them to shift their thinking from worry to positivity like that. What I want to do with them, or would like to do with them, is go back to where that worry is coming from and rewrite that story, and then look forward, right? Then look at the unknown and the possibility and the abundance.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, Steve Hardison was sharing that, and others have shared that, you know, observing what goes on, first of all. And what Steve also said, you know, about planting that seed, planting the new seed, recognizing what's going on. As he shared about your tow truck distinction,
right?
You know, planting that new seed of what's going there. You can have fun with the guy in the tow truck and have fun, or you could sit there and complain and worry about what's going to happen. Right. What do you choose?
Right. So how do you create yourself? Let's talk about the vision of who you could be. So when you talk about storytelling and unlocking that power that we have to storytell our personal story, how do you slow down with, or what's your method or process for creating yourself? How do you vision? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think for me, I have no expectations. That's for one thing. I don't have any expectations of what comes out of this conversation here.
Yeah.
I'm just loving this moment. And I've created that moment before, preparing myself to be here, having fun, being with two great guys, being listened to by X number of people around the world. And I'm loving it. And what comes up in the conversation is going to come up, and what comes out of my mouth is going to be from what I'm prepared right now. This is the truth that I'm hearing, or what I'm saying to you.
So
and you're
far,
going to hear
that. Yeah, I've seen 100% of what's come out of your mouth come out of your mouth. It doesn't change what it is, right?
No. Why should it?
You hit on expectations. Debbie Sluice, who is a phenomenal visioner, she worked with Jack Canfield, and she just has this way of just seeing clearly our visions of the future of ourselves, of what we're creating, and then making it a reality. And her word of the year is expectation. Expect it. Now, there are two versions of that. You'll say on one hand, I don't have any expectations. And on the other hand, we will have expectations. There are things that we will expect from our lives. And then on the other hand, there's a detachment from whatever happens, right? So we expect it. And if it never came about, we would also have no expectations. You would expect it and have no expectations. It's a paradox, right?
It is a paradox. It is a paradox because we could actually, it's like having a weight around your legs. If you've been, that expectation of things, and it could just bring you down the sea, down into the sea and all the way down because you expected it and it's drowning you. But you get, okay, yeah, that was expected, a great show, and that was lovely, that was it.
Yeah. Well, so there's the expectation. I'm going to play with this a little bit because there's a message here. The expectation is this is going to be a great show. It's declared, it's expected, it'll happen. And the other lack of expectation is I don't care how it goes. Does that make sense? It's no matter how it goes.
I don't know how it will go exactly.
Yeah.
Who's going to say what? It doesn't matter because it's going to come in the right way because it's expected to be a great show.
It's expected because we want it. We have created that before. We planted the seeds. We know Richard's coming on. We're ready. We're geared up. We've had our cups of coffee. We're ready to go. Yeah.
RGK. We were chanting that for hours. That's how I lost my voice.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Beautiful. I'm really loving you. I'm loving you, Ryan, every minute. Yeah. But you're right there, Nicholas. If we don't, we can't. If we put too much of an effort on expecting something, plants a seed, and sometimes we play that with that seed, and it'll go, oh, I'm disappointed. This didn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm disappointed I didn't say this. Oh, I'm disappointed. But what's coming out right now is actually, this is unscripted, but it's absolutely wonderful for people to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a control element of it. When you get into worry and fear, there's more control. There's an idea of perfection, a lot more judgment about how it comes about, a lot more attachment to the outcome. And with attachment, the value of attachment is that's where love for something is. But the challenge of attachment is that's where your deepest sadnesses come from when that bond is broken. So if you're really attached to something and it doesn't go the way you expected, you will experience sadness. And that's the cost of attachment. Yeah. But attachment is so necessary because if we look at something and we have this expectation, oh, that'll never happen for me, then we will put zero effort into creating it.
Yeah.
Right. But if we have this expectation of, oh, I can have that, then we'll take every action we can think of, and we'll also let go a bit of how it comes about. We'll surrender to the how this flows together, but we'll put every effort into it like we have control over how it's going to come about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. You've hit it beautifully there by saying, we can, by creating it, we're creating all them possibilities, as you said.
Yeah.
And how that's going to flow and how that's going to move, that's out of our control. We can be partly instrumental in being creative and create them possibilities.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if it's not going to flow that way, that's fine. It's going to flow a different way, and it will flow in the way that it should, not the way we want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that's consistent is who we are through all of it. So if you look at the tow truck driver distinction as a declaration, what Steve did is he knew no matter what, this is going to be the best experience because of who he is in relation to whatever goes on. There's no way it can go wrong.
No.
Right. But if we doubt ourselves in here, then everything can go wrong out here. It doesn't mean it matter if it's even successful out here. We wouldn't be able to see it because of what's going on in here.
Yeah.
And so that's where we take people back through these root journeys of, well, let's look at the stories you're telling. Let's look at some of the judgments that are coming up. Let's look at where you're not being neutral around what's showing up.
Totally agree. It's lovely how you explain that. We could be worrying about things, and why worry? Again, why are we worrying about it? That expectation of, the tow truck Steve just said, I'm just having fun with this. I'm creating what's coming up every moment. The guy with the music, and then he had a conversation with you, and then he did this and that. And it created a momentum of things of unfolding at each experience.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
But it's not a complete giving up, right? It's not like you just throw it to the wind and hope it falls together.
Yeah.
So how do you strategize? How do you structure and nurture your creations when you don't know how it's going to come about?
Well, I don't think for me, it would be not be worrying about it. First of all,
okay.
And what's coming out is the truth that I'm just seeing it as it is now.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing it now.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to think about, well, what's Nicholas going to say next. I'm worrying about what's going to happen in the future. I'm just explaining what I see now and what I'm hearing now.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm going to say next.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's going to unfold. You're going to pick up on another word.
Yeah.
Or something that was insightful for you. And then that's the next thread that's going to create the conversation.
It really is. And then somebody throws a comment up and we're like, wow, that was cool. Let's look at that. Right. Like that last comment that was there. It's your attitude. Really, it's the way you're going to perceive the world because of what's going on in you. Right.
Yeah.
Your own perspective. And that's different for everybody because we all have this different version of ourselves. You hit earlier about the lady pushing the trolley up the hill. Right. My son taught me a concept. I think he was 15 or 16 at the time. And he said, have you ever heard of sondering? And I said, no, what is that? And he says that every person that you see in the world has a story as complex as yours. I'm like, damn, dude, 15-year-old kid teaching me some things here. And so you think about it though, you slow down with the lady on the trolley and there's complexity to her life.
Yeah.
That you'll never know unless you really step in and ask, right? Each of us has complexity and we're all different people doing our own things. But if we slow down with each other, we start to hear that complexity. Oh, you're kind of like me. We have a lot more in common than I thought. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. And here, you guys, it's exactly the same here. You guys have created something and, and it's such a pleasure to be on this show, to share this with you, because this journey you're creating it's for everyone. It is for everyone. And that feeling of being part of it, it's beyond words for me. It's to be invited along, to be talking with you've had some wonderful people. Everyone I've heard has been fantastic. We're all getting something from that story. And we're creating stuff.
We're sondering right now.
Yeah.
We're getting to learn. There's this guy named Richard G. Kelly, RGK, that before today, maybe people didn't even know he existed. And here we bring him on. And if they didn't hear you, let's say it was muted out, they would look at you and they would tell some stories about who this guy is. But as we really shut down that listening and listen to what's being talked about here, this whole world opens up about who RGK is. And that's available to everybody on this platform, right? We have people from every background you can imagine in our tribe of giants. I mean, every political view, every religious view, even non-religious views, certain cultures, like we have everything blended in this group. And the messages, the 12 journeys that come from the book, The Giants and the Smalls, hit as a foundation to every one of those. They don't make one right or wrong. There's no in groups and out groups. It's really foundational to just being a human, right?
Yeah.
And recognizing that we all have that.
Yeah. It's like tuning into the right radio station.
Okay.
If you want to say it that way, tuning into the love station. If we all tuned into that human station, the love station, would be wonderful. But we're just as we are. Everyone's tuning in different stations. But here you get this opportunity to tune in to the giants and the smalls. And you're gaining so much from everyone who's been on this show.
Everybody.
Snippets, everyone, even in the groups, in your tribes, people you're connected with, Nicholas and Ryan, they're getting something all the time because you're creating something all the time with them.
We are, and we're never done learning. Like I'm never done. I've never had enough. I'm never satiated in a way of, oh, I've had enough. I don't need any more. I want to bring in people like Richard. I mean, we're booked out till May on our show, and I don't know what they're going to share that's going to blow my mind. But I planned it in, right? Yeah. Ryan planned it in so that we could do stuff like this and learn. I keep learning too by experiences that show up. Ryan talked about his experience this week that a certain situation, in most cases, this dude is calm. He's having fun. He's laughing. I've never seen a more chill person. But this situation came in and there was a switch, but it would have never come up if that wasn't triggered. And instead of using it as a justification to stay where he was, he used it as an opportunity to grow. Right. And that's what's available to us is maybe somebody has a different view from us that in us, we don't agree with, but they fully agree with it. It doesn't make them right or wrong. It just means they have a differing view. And if we can hold space for that differing view, then we can start to come to conversation and understanding about each other.
You hit it beautifully there. You shared that so well, even better than me. So, I mean, that's saying something, you know?
Thank you. Yeah. Is there anything to add to that, Ryan? Are you having thoughts around that or?
No, like it was very, I don't know, introspective. It was a moment where I haven't had to do quite like I've had incremental, smaller shifts over time. This one was like a paddle to the face. I don't even know, like darn, like getting hit with a baseball bat. And my first instinct was to justify. The other one was a little bit like there's still stuff that came up, some of the anger and some of the stuff, and it came up quickly. And because of what we've talked about, and what we've done, and what we've learned over the last several years, it was so much easier to like pause and go to humility and look back and go, just step back. We call it the observer, you know, our giant overview, Nick and I would call it. And I just step back. And really what Ryan really wants is to grow. What really Ryan wants is for people to get along and to love each other and to help each other. And I want harmony in our workplace. I want harmony in my personal life. So it was easy to from in here to then step into that and go, that's not what I want. I don't want that other stuff that comes with it. I don't want the anger and the worry and the fear and the doubt of the walking on eggshells at work and things like that. Well, here's an opportunity that I can clean that up and shift it and change it permanently. That's a beautiful thing in my view. And was it easy? It was easier because I've been going through this stuff. Is it easy at first? No, probably not. But the more you practice into this, you think of a Steve Hardison. He's practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. Where people like they look at him and his shifts are nanoseconds now versus maybe days or weeks or months or years when he first started. Where fear still comes up for Steve Hardison. We said this before. Comes up for Nick Smith. I see it. But the shifts are quicker because of being able to go through these steps and really, really do the work.
It doesn't go away. You didn't come into this and there was no emotion. There weren't all these thoughts. You were a clean slate. It's like, oh, this is easy. Now that I'm awake to it, I can do all this stuff without any emotional impact or any thoughts getting in the way. It wasn't that. It's like all that was going on and you allowed for it and you created and showed, you essentially took that by the hand and showed it a more powerful way to show up. Right. Whereas you could have easily said, no, that dude's right. And here's why that dude's right. Right. And that's what a lot of us do is we justify why we did what we did, and we blame it or we put it out there and we think it's because of them. I think Byron Katie talks about that. As long as you think the problem's out there, there's no hope, right?
Yeah.
You're suffering in paradise.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. And what Ryan just shared there was so beautiful. So beautiful. I was touched, moved, and inspired what he just shared there. It was such a lovely understanding a process that he's going through, that we're all going through. And the way you, as you said, that, you know, it's going to get quicker. It's going to get quicker, and you're going to respond quicker, and you're going to get more and more. But that's the beauty of it. That's beauty. That's life as it is. It's just wonderful what you just shared there, Ryan. It was absolutely, you know, you could just take that snippet and that would be the show, because it just made everything, it just brought everything together for me. So thank you for that. Really was
It's
beautiful.
people like you, you know, it's people like Dr. Will, it's people like Hugh, it's people like Lori and Sunshine and Alina, and there's people that hop on here that are helping me with my perspective shift. And Hugh, I think it was Hugh that said it, a family within a tribe here.
Yeah.
You know, like we're all able to hold space for each other, and I'm just super grateful for you being on here, because your way of being and the way that you do it has improved my life even in this last 50 minutes. And now too, being introduced to each other, we have the opportunity to do even more together to help more people to change their personal story and to become master storytellers in a positive direction.
Yeah, but it also allows us to keep on growing as well.
For sure.
You're going to continue growing. You're going to be even more powerful than you are now. You are great now. And that's what I'm trying to say. The way you shared that was just beautiful. It was so powerful. And I don't, you know, people should, I was reacting to it. I was just like, wow, I'm in love with that, because you've just shown me so much there about you and how you are and who you're being even now. It was just a wow moment for me.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Yeah, this is where Ryan comes from the heart almost every time. I come from up here, more cold thinking versus warm thinking. But what I'm learning is how to make that 18-inch drop right down into the heart more. And what's interesting, I saw a video a while back that talked about development. When we're conceived, the heart is the first thing that develops.
Yeah.
And it moves from there, then it creates the brain next. So the heart is our first neural center. And apparently there's a connection between the heart and the brain in the roof of your mouth. If you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, you can actually stimulate that connection between the two. And for me, what I've learned over the past few years working with Ryan is how to come more from that space. But the blend is what is really powerful in all of us, is our ability to learn infinite things. So we literally have limitless capacity up here. But it's the mixture of that with this that really makes it effective in the world. Like, there are a lot of people that are really knowledgeable, but really cold, right? They're just purely logic. And then there are people that blend the two worlds. And so that's where, you know, the power to connect with another human, but even more importantly, to connect with your inner parts of yourself, those small parts, because this journey, the giants and the small, it's not out here. It's all an inner world. You have the smalls and you have the giants in you. And so it's your ability to retell that story and develop that inner giant within you by allowing that space for it to be whatever it is, to hold space for it, to have conversation and dialogue with it, to support it and upgrade it, to reparent it if it missed out on some things, to help it grow in ways that it's never imagined, right? And we think somebody out here is going to do that for us, but all they're going to do is inspire us to do that work for ourselves. That's it. That's all they can do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you both are doing today, is you're inspiring, you're breathing into somebody else, something that they can take into their inner world and grow from. Is there more to share around that?
Yeah, I think, you know, we all learn from each other. But at the end of the day, we have to work on ourselves. And that, as you said, that's the giants and the smalls are really going and really practicing, working constantly on ourselves. We kind of switch off. I've had years when I've switched off and I'm just gone like a robot and just kept plugged on and did my work and not worried about anything. But then something happens and you kind of go, I have to work on myself again. I have to kind of switch on where I was before. And it happens at different times of people's lives, you know, and it goes back and forth. I'm loving it. I'm loving this time now. I'm growing so much in who I'm being. And I'm learning so much about myself. I'm actually starting to love myself again after so many years of being real a pain in the backside to myself.
Yeah.
Knocking myself down and then seeing how it affects other people on the other side. What I give and what I receive. So what I'm giving out is what I'm receiving back. So now I see that if I'm changed, I feel so much energized, so much change. Yeah, I really do love everyone, and I love you guys. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing, and it's projecting itself out here on the screen. It's projecting us in our conversation, our storytelling. And if you allow that to happen, you give yourself that permission. It just makes miracles upon miracles upon miracles and miracles constantly in our lives.
How does the story go? We talk about legacy, right? For you, how does the story go for you? And not necessarily that it ends, but at the end of a chapter or a book, somebody gets to this point where it wraps up and they tell the end of that point, right? But then there are more books and more things to do. So not speaking as though it's the ultimate end here, but what legacy are you hoping to leave with people when they experience your story? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the legacy would be that I've got 2 extraordinary children. And I try to be the best father to them with love, presence, truthfulness. And if they can take that with them in their journey, on their lives, as they move forward as giants into the next part of their legacy, that would be something wonderful for me to have known that my children had taken something from that, and which they do, because I see it every moment and every day. But it's the same with everyone that I connect with now. If they take a little snippet of something that I've given or I've shared, or I've just taken the time to just sit down and listen to them, like I did with that person yesterday, it's making a ripple effect for them in their world, in their life, interior, in their world, to make them giants as well.
RGK. RGK.
I just had a visual and my nerdy side is coming out here of file folders, right? And it doesn't necessarily apply, but it does. Is you have this parent folder and then you have child or children folders. You have literally, you have subfolders, right? Then every one of those becomes a parent folder to the next, right? And so we take this file folder of all this information that we've collected and gleaned through the years, and we pass it on to our children, right? And then they become the parent folders to their children. And it's not just our direct children, it's anybody that's had an interaction here has the ability to become, in a way, that child self. We put them on our shoulders. So they become the small on our shoulder while we're also being the small on somebody else's shoulder, right? So there is no end to it. There's no in one direction or the other, but we all have that ability to place somebody on our shoulder, whether it's our kids or somebody in our space, and inspire them into their own greatness. And all the while that's happening for us up the line, right?
Yeah, so we're as we're moving up that river, you know, as we're as we're learning to swim even better and better in what's in our own world.
Yeah.
We're transforming ourselves into something even more greater.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great nerdy visual. Thank you for that. Thank you for your legacy as well of what you're teaching your kids. That's amazing. Is there anything else you want to share today?
No, I'm good. I'm great. I've just loved every moment of it. I've loved every 60 minutes of this conversation, of storytelling and expanding and exploring in so many different dimensions. It's been absolutely wonderful. So I thank you both, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have some other thoughts?
Yeah, just you know, like the acknowledgement for who you're being, because who you're being has led to us being able to be blessed right here, right now, today. And you have some pretty lucky kids, brother. And yeah, because they have a dad that's really working on himself and helping other people through that process, and they get to then turn around and mirror that throughout their lives. Like how amazing to have, you know, a great parent that can do that for them, so that they have the best opportunity to not have these stories, right, or less of them, and to learn from it, so that they have the tools moving forward. And so we're definitely grateful for you and your brotherhood, and hope that we can continue that relationship. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for those that are watching, as always, thanks for showing up. You guys make this this interaction fun. It actually takes it in directions that we don't expect, and it's awesome. Some of your comments are more valuable than what we're sharing here. They really highlight the importance of the work that we're doing. This has been our passion project for years, you know, and so you make that a possibility. We're grateful for you. We hope that if you know somebody that could benefit from this, that you'll share it with them, that you'll share our channel, the Tribe of Giants, invite them to the Tribe of Giants, share the book, do all these things, help them to see their potential and step into it. So keep doing that. Like we always say, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There's nowhere else to be. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. You're not doing it wrong, right? You're going in the right direction, and you're exactly who you need to be. You're right on time. Things will work out. So keep stepping. Remember that. And we love you. We hope you'll go make it a giant day. And we hope you'll see us next week on the next video. So we'll talk to you soon. Make it a giant day.
Love you too.
Thank you all.